Welcome to Books vs. Movies, the podcast where I set out to answer the age-old question, is the book really always better than the movie? I'm Lluvia, an actress and book lover based out of New York City, and today I will be counting down my top 10 favorite films of 2024 that I saw in theaters. So again, I am focusing on films that I saw in theaters because I can just go to my AMC app and look at everything that I watched in the past year, and I really have no other way of keeping track other than like through a spreadsheet, which is fine, but I'm not gonna lie, I would forget to input every single film that I saw. So just having it digitally is just easier for me. But let's go ahead and get started. Number 10 is Speak No Evil. So this film is a horror film thriller, and it follows a family who's invited to spend a whole weekend in a lonely home in the British country, British or Irish, maybe it's Scottish. It's a UK countryside. But as the weekend progresses, they realize that a dark side lies within the family who invited them. And I really enjoyed this film. I think I mainly enjoyed it because of the performances, mainly of James McAvoy. James McAvoy is just a beast, and yeah, he did such a great job in this role. I think the film's biggest downfall was its trailers. Its trailers revealed so much, and there was things that should have been plot twists that weren't because the trailer gave them away. So if you've seen the trailer, you've honestly seen all the major plot twists. You're not going to be shocked or surprised by anything that gets presented, but it was still a fun time overall. So I really hate in horror films when characters make dumb decisions that I just can't. Like, what makes a horror film scary to me is if a character makes a smart decision or what they think is a smart decision, or what they think is the right decision, and maybe it backfires on them, because I feel like that's what we would all try to do if we were stuck in a horror film. Like, we would try to get out with our lives, and we would be making decisions that we think would keep us alive, and we might end up making a mistake or choosing the wrong thing. But so the one thing about this film that was really annoying, that was like, oh my gosh, was like the father character. Like, the wife kept being like, I'm getting weird vibes, we need to leave, and he kept being like, no, they're friends, they would never do that. Like, he just kept making excuses, and these people are acting obviously not normal, and he just like keeps writing, like the wife wants to leave like after a few hours after they arrive, and they end up staying the whole weekend because the father is like really like, no, it's fine, they're just a little different. But it's like, bro, no. Like, can you like not and just listen to your wife and leave? Like, what is wrong with you? Then you wouldn't have, had the things that happened to you happen. So anyway, I think that was like the main annoyance, is just like the father character was just such a man in that sense of like, no, I'm right, you're wrong. You and your womanly intuition is wrong. So so that was the only thing, but it was still a fun time. Number 9 is Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So in this third installment of the Sonic the Hedgehog series, Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails reunite again to fight a new adversary named Shadow, who is a mysterious villain with powers unlike anything they faced before. And with their abilities outmatched, Team Sonic has to seek out an unlikely alliance. So I will say the first 2 Sonic films held a lot of nostalgia for me. I remember playing Sonic with my brother growing up. I was always Tails because Tails was player 2, and of course he's the older brother, so he got to always be player 1. But it's fine. So he was always Sonic and I was always Tails. And then my mom gifted him the Knuckles video game for Christmas one year, so we got to play as Knuckles as well. That one was a 1-person game, so by we I mean him, and I just had to sit back and watch. But I had a lot of fun playing those games, and I have a lot of good memories playing those games. But I don't know much of the Sonic lore outside of the Sonic the Hedgehog and the Knuckles video game. Like, I don't know any other Sonic video games beyond that. I didn't watch the Sonic the Hedgehog TV series, so I'm not like too familiar. This third film we got into the lore that I'm not familiar with. Like, I don't know who Shadow is. I've seen him, but I don't know who he is. But that being said, it was still a fun time. I really enjoyed it. I think the Sonic films are a great example of how to make a film that's aimed for kids but can still appeal to people of all ages and how to do that well. I really, really enjoyed it. I had a fun time watching it, and in my opinion, the biggest downfall for this film was just the amount of Jim Carrey. I don't hate Jim Carrey by any means, but he was playing Dr. Robotnik and a different character in this film. So we had Jim Carrey playing two characters, and he was really, really, really hamming it up more than usual. And I feel like that the filmmakers relied so much on Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey and his Jim Carrey comedy that it kind of detracted from the main storyline of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles going up against Shadow, which was that, because when the four of them were fighting, that was really cool and exciting. So I kind of wish it had been more about Sonic and company and less about Dr. Robotnik and Jim Carrey in general. Number 8, and I know I'm gonna get crap about this one for Moshi because I put it so low on the list, but number 8 for me is Wicked. I really, really did like this film. I thought Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo were wonderful as Glinda and Elphaba respectively. The world building of the film was gorgeous. It was stunning. The little Easter eggs that they incorporated, the way they expanded the story of Wicked to make some moments longer and clearer. Obviously, with a musical, you're stuck to the constraints of the musical, of the runtime of the musical. So some events happen really, really fast. So there have been some parts of the musical where people are like, that was a really sudden change. So John Chu really took the opportunity to flesh out those moments so that when a change happened, it happened organically, as opposed to, oh, it was supposed to happen because we reached this part of the show. So I really, really do appreciate everything that he did. Just for me, I did start to feel the length of this film towards the end of it. I really started getting antsy, and I was like, we're still sitting here and we still have Defying Gravity to go, plus other songs before then. So I really, really did start to feel really, really antsy and anxious. And yeah, I think that's kind of what slowed it down for me. But I understand why it was expanded upon. I understand why why it was split into 2 parts, and why each part is going to be like 3 hours long. So in total, it's going to be like a 6-hour long musical, which is like wild to think about. But it makes sense. I completely understand why they did it. Just I did start feeling the runtime in a way that I don't feel it when I'm watching the actual theater production. Number 7 is Transformers 1. And again, this is an example of a film that's aimed for kids that's actually really well done and can appeal to a wide variety of audiences. I will say this one might have a special place in my heart because we saw this one in El Paso when we went during one of our visits to visit family, and so we watched it with my sister-in-law and her boyfriend and her best friend, and then we watched it with my brother-in-law and our goddaughter Emma. She's our oldest niece, and she's the only one old enough to go to the movies, so she was like really excited to go, and it was so cute. Like, it was my brother-in-law and then Emma, then Orlando, and then me. So it was just like so cute getting to hear her giggle throughout the film. That was just adorable. And she really loved Badasstron. So yeah, just some good memories watching this film. But overall, not apart from that, this tells the origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron. They were originally friends, and then at some point during the course of this film, it's revealed how they became enemies. And this is an origin story that I was not familiar with. I enjoy some of the Transformers films, not everything, but they're fun, and I really enjoyed this origin story. And I agree with Orlando in terms of like, because we were talking about how there are like other films that tell origin stories, and it's just like we know the story and they still manage to screw it up somehow, or make it really boring, or make it really basic. And this film really kept it really exciting, just visually exciting, and it was genuinely funny. And I mean, my niece enjoyed it. She was the only one there that was a child. Everyone else that watched it was an adult, and all the adults enjoyed it as well. So that was a really, really great origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron. Number 6 is Abigail. So this story follows a group of criminals who kidnap the ballerina daughter of a powerful underworld figure. They retreat to an isolated mansion, unaware that they're locked up with a little girl who is actually not a normal little girl. So this was done by the same team who did Ready or Not, which came out, I want to say, in 2019, and it stars Samara Weaving, and it's her character marries into a family, and anyone who marries into this family, they have to have a game night, and if a particular game is selected, then everyone in that family has to sacrifice the new bride or groom, depending on who got married. And it was a whole lot of fun. This one continues to add on. It's not a sequel, but you can see the similarities. Like, you can tell that this was made by the same team. And honestly, it was a lot of fun. I don't like gory films, and this was gory, but I think it helps that like the blood and the gore was cartoony. It wasn't realistic, so I was able to handle it just fine. But it was a lot of fun. It was genuinely funny. Like, there were so many good one-liners in this film, and it's a good time. It's a chillingly good time. So I had a fun. This is not usually a genre that I go for, but I had a lot of fun watching this, and I recommend it. Number 5 is A Quiet Place Day One. And so this is technically it's the third film in the Quiet Place series, but it's technically a prequel. It's called A Quiet Place Day One. This tells us what happened the day that the aliens took over. And it follows specifically a young woman named Sam, played by Lupita Nyong'o, who finds herself trapped in New York City during the early stages of the alien invasion. And this is just a great example of keeping that tension. We know, like, the first Quiet Place film takes place about a year and a half before after the events of this one. So we know what the monsters are. That's not going to be a plot twist if you've seen it. We know how they work. We know the gist of the film, like what you need to do in order to survive. But this film is such a great example of knowing all that and expanding on the story and finding ways to keep it exciting and tense. Like, this is such a great film. Like, the performances by Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn were fantastic. But I really, really, really have to applaud the filmmakers who found a way to keep this idea that can easily go stale, if I'm being honest, and keeping it fresh. And like I said, it's, even though I know the story, we know what's gonna happen eventually, it was still it still kept me on my toes. It still kept me very tense. I was still not sure the main characters were gonna make it out of this. It really, really finds a way to keep you excited and engaged. And I have nothing but good things. I think this might be my favorite entry in the Quiet Place series, which is asking a lot, considering, like I said, we have the premise. We know the premise. We know what's gonna happen. Like, there's really no way to shock us. So they did it. They just focused on the atmosphere, and they did a very, very good job of it. And I really do appreciate the message that it sent. It found a way to send a really good message despite this really tense, thrilling film. So highly recommend it. Number 4 is The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. So in this film, nobody is ready for the mayhem and surprises that ensue when 6 of the worst youngsters disrupt the town's yearly Christmas performance. So this film follows a group of 6 siblings. They are awful. Like, no one in this town can stand them. They are bullies. They are troublemakers. They are just the worst children you could ever imagine, but they really want to be a part of the Christmas pageant, and they force themselves into this pageant. They force themselves into the lead roles, and out of that comes a very unexpected, or as the title tells you, the best Christmas pageant ever. This one we kind of watched on a whim. Again, we watched this one in November, so a little bit before the Christmas season, but I love Christmas. Orlando loves Christmas, so we start celebrating Christmas. Like, we start getting everything ready, like, as soon as Halloween is over. We don't care. But this one was, again, it'd been a while since we'd been to the movies. There wasn't really anything we wanted to watch. I saw this one and I was like, it's Christmas. Let's just check it out. We really didn't know we had never heard about it. So we were going in blind. We didn't know if it was going to be good or bad. We had no expectations. And we were honestly very pleasantly surprised by the outcome of it. Now, I will say there are a lot of religious undertones in this film, and that is enough to turn some people off to it. I completely understand that. And if this isn't for you, it's not for you. But if you can overlook the religious messaging of it, I think you'll be happily surprised to discover a beautiful, heartwarming film that I know who the target audience is. It's again, the target audience is people that fall for any Christian message out there. And the ultimate message of the film, unfortunately, I think will go completely over their heads, which is very sad for me to say, but I think it will. But that being said, it didn't go over mine or Orlando's head. And we were pleasantly surprised at how beautifully told the story was, the message, and both of us were not expecting to be choked up at the climax of the film, or I guess that's the falling action or the resolution at this point. But yeah, we were watching it, we were really into it, and then as we were discussing it after we watched it, we were like, I got really choked up at that part and I wasn't expecting to, and I was like, me too. So it is an absolute beautiful film. Again, I completely understand if the religious messaging is enough for you to not want to watch this, but if you don't mind it or you can overlook it, I would say try giving it a shot, because it is a beautiful film with a beautiful message, and it's unexpectedly heartwarming. Number 3 is Your Monster. I had never heard of this film, ever. Never heard of it. My roommate was the one that was like, I want to go watch it. Do you want to go watch it with me? And I was like, I love going to the movies, so yes. And yeah, so I ended up watching this with her, and we both really enjoyed it. And this story focuses on Laura Franco, who is an actress. Her life falls apart, but she's able to find her voice when she meets a terrifying yet weirdly charming monster living in her closet. This is a romantic comedy with a little bit of horror about falling in love with your inner rage, and that's the tagline for the film, a film about falling in love with your inner rage, and that's exactly what she learns to do. She learns to find her voice. She learns to not be a doormat. And I had a really good time with this film, and there was a lot that I could relate to as an actress. Laura Franco is an actress. She's struggling to make it, and she's going on auditions, and she sees who gets the lead role, and you can't help feeling I could relate to it as an actress. And Laura is a lot like me personality wise. She's very soft spoken. She keeps things to herself. She doesn't wanna fight battles, whether they should be fought or not. And by the end, she finds that voice and she's able to express herself. This film is just so much fun, and it's so like the concept of the monster and what it stands for. But yeah, it's fun. It's just so much fun, and I really enjoyed it. And I have noticed that after watching this film, I'm not keeping things to myself. I keep some things to myself, but now I'm like, I think people are starting to see another side of me, because I'm just like, this is how I feel and I'm not gonna hide it, and I don't care if it pisses you off. So the message of this film really did get to me, so good job, film. But it's just so much fun, and if you are a theater nerd, I think you'll like it, because there's like this, again, as an actress, I really related to certain aspects of it. She goes to this audition and she sees like this beautiful actress walk up to the casting director, and she just is like so natural at like the schmoozing, and she's just so beautiful. And I get it. Sometimes it feels like that's who always beats me out for the role. And there's a lot that goes into casting, yes. But sometimes that's what your mind tells you. Oh, she got it because she's so much better at schmoozing with casting directors than I am. Oh, she got it because look at how gorgeous she is, and I'm not as gorgeous as she is. So there's things like that I really related to and broke my heart. But then Laura finds her inner voice and she comes out fighting. And that's what I started to do after this film came out. Number 2 goes to American Fiction. So I did talk about this on the podcast with book club friends Raymond and Chantel. Chantel did prefer Erasure, and Raymond and I preferred American Fiction, but honestly, check out American Fiction. Whether or not you decide to read Erasure, although you should, American Fiction is it's just so good and so funny. Absolutely loved it. I didn't know this was based on a book. I just saw the trailer and I saw this was actually the first film I saw in 2024, but I saw Jeffrey Wright and I saw that it was funny. Like the trailer immediately sold me, and as soon as I saw the trailer I was like, I want to watch that film so bad, and I was not disappointed. It is so good, so check it out for yourself. And my number one pick, it's gonna come as a big surprise to people probably, and a lot of people, I think it's going to be a controversial pick for number one, but I do want to preface this by saying that this film is number one because of the subject matter and how much that subject matter meant to me, or meant to me as a kid, and continues to mean to me now, and that is Butterfly in the Sky. Butterfly in the Sky is a documentary about Reading Rainbow. Reading Rainbow was my everything as a kid growing up. That show is what got me to love reading. LeVar Burton, to this day, I think is the only celebrity I can think of. There's so many celebrities that I love and admire, and I'm gonna be like starstruck when I meet them, but LeVar Burton, that's gonna be starstruck. Like whenever I meet that man, that is gonna be the most starstruck I'm ever gonna be, because there's no one who has impacted my life. There's no other celebrity that has impacted my life as much as LeVar Burton did. And I, like, when I meet him, I think I'm gonna cry. Like, I'm not gonna know what to say to him. Like, that is, like, I am gonna be starstruck. Like, everyone else that I'm excited to meet, I feel like I'll be able, like, especially if I meet them on film sets and stuff, if I'm cast in something, I'll be able to keep it professional. Not gonna lie, I don't know that I'll be able to keep it professional with LeVar Burton. I'm gonna freak out so much. But anyway, yes, Butterfly in the Sky is a documentary that tells the story of Reading Rainbow. It tells the story of the broadcasters, educators, and filmmakers who believe enough in this show and believe that they could inspire a love of reading in kids to bring this show to life. And it's the same old story that we're still getting today. There was people that wanted the show canceled because the books they were picking were just giving kids unrealistic expectations. And there's a really funny moment in the film in which one of the women that was in charge of bringing Reading Rainbow to life, as they're getting complaints from parents of like, you can't pick these books, like these, you're gonna, kids, well, it wasn't just parents, it was like parents and the station, PBS of all places, were like, you can't be choosing these books, like kids are gonna start believing that these things are real, in terms of like if it was like a story of like a kid that turned into a dragon or something. And so she holds a focus group with kids and she reads the book, and she's having a focus group, and then she asks the kids, do any of you think that you could actually turn into a fish like the main character in the book? And there's just complete silence from the kids, and then one little girl raises her hand and just says, it's a story. It's like, yeah, we, like, kids are so much smarter than we give them credit for. And so this details a story of like making this show entertaining for kids, making it engaging for them, but also not like talking down to them, because kids are so much smarter than we think they are. And, you know, it also talks about LeVar Burton and how hard he had to fight to just be him authentically. This was at a time in which there were not a lot of Black men hosting especially kids shows. So it was really important for him, like if he wanted to have an afro, that they let him have an afro. When he pierced his ears, it was really important that they let him keep his earrings in, that they request not to take them out. And how he was so willing, as much as he loved being the host of Reading Rainbow, he was so willing to walk away from it if they were not willing to let him be an authentic representation of the Black man that he is. So yeah, that is why that's my number one pick. And again, I know it might be controversial, but Reading Rainbow just meant so much to me growing up, and LeVar Burton means so much to me, and that's why there could not have been any other pick for number one for me. So that is it for this episode of Books versus Movies. I don't know what's coming at you, but keep tuning in. I'm currently reading several books that I need to finish before I can let you know what I'm bringing to the podcast next time. But keep tuning in, and I'm looking forward to a really exciting 2025. See you next time.